Hello and welcome to a special edition of Ought to Know Better Tonight. Joined by OKB regular Luke. How are you doing, pal?
Good evening, Gilly. How's things?
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. You know how it is. Long day at work. Have a beer, have a chat, talk some shit. Yeah. You know how it is.
Hey, at least we've got something to talk about this week. I mean, it's not probably the most ideal subject that we're going to be sat here talking about for the best part, probably the next hour or so. But yeah, it is what it is, and it needs addressing. So yeah, let's get to it. I know we've got some exciting people that you managed to arrange. Sort of going back through the little black book and ringing all your old pals.
That's it. And just before we delve right into it, there's a few of us that are going to be doing a charity walk in August. So anybody that can spare anything at all, links will be on YouTube, Facebook, and in the Twitter links and so on. So anything you can spare, it's for a good cause. Motor Neurone Disease Association is running it. As I say, anything that you can spare would be great. So, right, we'll crack straight into it. And here we go. So, Si, we've been in we've known each other for a fair amount of time, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. But so you are a Manchester United fan on the Leeds United podcast. This is actually the first. You are the first.
Hey, it's my first ever podcast as well. So
and the last.
Yeah. Wow, we're popping your cherry tonight. Brilliant. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Cool. So, Luke's just alluded to some things here that, we're in a situation where actually what's happened this week, it absolutely transcended any interclub rivalries. Because, to me, I think we were in a situation where actually, what was transpiring, or what somebody was attempting to ensure was to transpire on their benefit, was really shaking the foundations of the game. Yep. So, Sunday night, I think it was that things started coming out. Can you just the range of emotions you went through and how you were feeling at the time as a fan of one of the clubs that had kind of been involved in this? Can you just talk us through that?
Yeah, I mean it's been on the cards for a while, but to find out that it's been done cloak and dagger, I think that's the biggest surprise. There's rumours, wasn't there, on Saturday that this was brewing, and then when it finally came out on Sunday, and I thought the timing as well, being 11 o'clock at night, clearly being aimed at other target audiences as well. At first, I know exactly why they were trying to do it, but they completely misjudged the situation. It's not the club's fault; it's the owner's fault. We've got to get that clear. And they talk about punishment and everything else at the moment. All you're punishing is actually the fans and the players and the managers. They're not at fault here. It was an attack on English football by the Yanks. Let's be fair. I mean, it was the three main American owners, Glazers, the guys at Liverpool, and Arsenal. They wanted franchise football. Then with Perez, who had just fallen out with UEFA, that's one thing people haven't really talked about really too much. Perez had been fighting with UEFA for months over more money to get out of UEFA to support Real Madrid and Barcelona and the Spanish clubs. So it wasn't really that difficult of a sell to get the Spanish on board. And it just felt like it's a clutching up power, isn't it, really? It was not only just the English clubs, it's all the clubs across Europe. And fair dues to the Germans and the French for saying, no, we ain't having none of it. And then when the dust settled on the Monday, it's just like, why would you even consider this? You haven't thought this through at all.
As a fan of I'm going to still call them scum because you're on a Leeds United podcast.
Yeah.
As a fan of scum, I mean, it looked to me as if 99% of the population was probably with the fans, but there was always that small percentage that could see some form of benefit in there. I mean, certainly if I was an Arsenal or Tottenham fan, I might feel slightly differently. They're going to be competing against fantastic teams week in, week out, and still finish bottom. But how did you feel embarrassed, I suppose, is what I'm trying to ask. Were you embarrassed to be affiliated or a supporter of that club?
Yeah, both. Let's be fair. I mean, Spurs and Arsenal should never have been in the equation, right?
Well, you say that, but it comes from revenue. It's only money. It comes from revenue.
Yeah,
So we're not talking when we're talking about the big six in English football. We're not talking about the most successful. We're not talking about presently the best sides. We're talking about the ones that generate the revenue. That's all we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just spin on the head slightly. I would be interested to see what the figures are in terms of world. What we all know that Man United and Liverpool are the most watched clubs in the world, alongside Real Madrid, Barcelona, and all them lot. But if you just focus on English football and the so-called Big Six, I would really like to see how many percentages have Spurs in that top six, because I really don't think that's true. I still think you guys, Leeds, Everton, and Leicester will probably still be watched more globally than Spurs, because the attraction in the Far East for Leicester and for Everton. So I still don't think Spurs should have been anywhere near that. Arsenal only there because they're Americans. Yes, I was deeply embarrassed. And it all comes back down to what fundamentally the whole football pyramid. It's the dream, isn't it? Regardless of your club, the dream is that you want to play for your country, you want to play for the team that you support as a child, you want to win the league and get into Europe and play against the best teams. And if you're good enough, play in the World Cup and maybe win the World Cup. That's what today it's every lad and girl wants to dream of, right?
Yeah.
But for them to have 12, let's be fair, it's 12 teams to take that dream away from everybody in Europe. It's just absolutely disgusting, and it's really, really embarrassing because it just destroys everybody's dream.
With that in mind, then, Si, and taking your scum, Manu, whatever way you want to be called. I'll tell you what I won't call you, and it's the U word.
Yeah.
But taking that hat off, then how are you sanctioned and punished? Although it's the owner's decision, how are you going to be punished? And what do you think, in your eyes, as a fan of one of those clubs, how do you think you're going to be fairly punished?
So you know what, I tweeted about this earlier on today, and there's been a bit of a heated debate between two other people who I don't even know, and I can't be bothered to respond to them. But I actually said for this season, I don't think I'm not going to talk about the European teams. For our league here, I don't think the six should be punished this season because it's unfair on the current players and the managers of the current clubs. Mm-hmm. What I have said is what they should do to really hit home the punishment for the club is, say, deduct 12 to 20 points off every single one of the six. So next season they start the bottom six. Now that'll be some feat for Pep Guardiola. They talk about how he's the greatest manager to ever grace the planet Earth. Start off with minus 20 points, mate. Let's see where you finish the next season. Give everybody a head start. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do. I think that's the only way, because there's no point fining the clubs. Let's be fair. I mean, Arsenal, Spurs, and United will probably struggle to pay any fines because financially we're not in a great situation. Chelsea and City will just write you a check. There you go. Have it. So there's no point.
I think you're right. I don't think a fine is a big enough sanction for these clubs. And it'll just make. I mean, what's to stop them doing it again in a few years' time? They need to be fairly and seriously sanctioned so that they don't even consider even thinking about putting the game into disrepute and having all these.
Absolutely.
Again. So. Any other bits and pieces for Si before we let Si the scum fan go, Matt?
just that last piece there where we've talking about we can't be in a position where this can ever be attempted again. We did talk Project Big Picture came around. Rick Parry was involved in that, working with Liverpool and Manchester United, and then we've had the Super League this time around. So thoughts on how we avoid round 3, because we can't be in this situation again.
I tell you what, it's a great question, and I think there's a fine line here. The fine line is between sport, business, and then the government. I think it's a really difficult one because, let's be fair, and we won't go into politics. It's always bad to go into politics, but with the Tory government, they're always open to free and open competition. So therefore, private companies will prosper under a Tory government, right? So legislative change is one solution to this, but then you're going to be asking multi-billionaires to pretty much, not so much give away half their club, but sell half their club back to the fans. Also,
like German size.
Yeah, exactly like the German model. That's what people are talking about at the moment. But on the reverse of that, how many people can actually afford to go and buy some of these shares? They could still be outpriced. So there's both sides of it. So it's going to be a really tough call. How do we stop it? Because I think you're right. Fast forward 10 years, this conversation will be had again, but it might not be the same six.
Absolutely.
Sky said the other day, didn't they? When the Sky broke away, or Premier League broke away from the Football League, there was huge discussions, and some of those teams who were involved in those discussions then aren't being involved today. So fast forward another 6 years, 10 years could all change.
Well, Liverpool don't get in the Champions League this season, and who knows? They could do a Leeds.
Yeah,
oh, great. I tell you what, somebody did say if you deduct points this season, deduct 20 points off every top 16 this season, Arsenal get relegated because they go straight to the bottom three.
Do you think that's a severe? Do you think any of those 6 teams deserve to be playing in Europe next season?
So, the hand on heart, I would actually say no to that. However, on the reverse of it, UEFA would want it because you take those 6 teams out, money plummets. And this is the problem. They are too big and powerful now. They actually still hold the cards. This European Super League has failed miserably and so rightly, but they still hold the cards. That's the reality. Because let's be fair, Man United, Liverpool, not so much Chelsea, not much City, but Chelsea particularly, when it comes to European football, they still attract the biggest audiences.
Yeah, well, great point there from Will. But we know better than anybody as Leeds fans to live. Let me just get that comment up quickly there.
To live outside of your means, yeah.
To live outside of his means, it happened to us. We felt the wrath, and we went down to League One, and we spent 16 years outside the top flight. What makes you as a club so different? We had bad ownership, we had bad choices. What makes this so different to that?
You know what? I don't think it does make it much of a difference. I can remember watching you boys. Well, you finished second, got to the semi-final of the Champions League. You rolled the dice and ultimately lost, didn't you? When you had Robbie Keane's, Rio Ferdinand's, and all that lot. With David O'Leary, wasn't it? Was your boss at the time?
Yeah.
You had a bad team to watch back then, but there's no difference here. I mean, the only way we go down at the moment is if the banks pull in the money from the Glazers. Because the amount of money involved with us. Because as far as fans go, I mean, we got the most fickle fan base because we've got idiots who've never been to Old Trafford, never been to a live football match somewhere, right? And no disrespect to them, but they're the ones who wanted us to play Real Madrid every other week. They wanted us out of the league. They want us out of all this type of stuff. Those section of fans are never going to go away, but there's always going to be fans who will go to Old Trafford. I handed my season ticket back 2 years ago for my own personal reasons, but I haven't missed going up there because you never heard, where I used to sit, very rarely would you hear a local. It was always tourists. Old Trafford was full of tourists. But that said, I hear a lot of Liverpool fans say exactly the same about Anfield because it's been outpriced. There's a lot of tourist fans these days.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, absolutely. So I totally agree with this. Sorry, we can't chat with you much longer. We've got so many people waiting to come on tonight. Si, absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for having me on. Hopefully
we'll
get relegated.
Get you back on when we're in a situation and there's another game coming on.
When you're in League One,
I'll drop you a line.
Well, not on Monday. After we play on Sunday, yeah.
Cheers, Si.
See you.
See you soon.
What do you think of that, then, Matt?
Do you know? I knew he's a level-headed guy, and I've known him for a long time. We worked together, and he's a good bloke. I think that I can see both sides of an argument of the fans going, "Why should we be punished?" But the thing is, what we've seen, so I can see where they're coming from because when we went through it and we went into administration, we didn't want to be punished as fans.
No, absolutely.
So I fully appreciate how they're feeling at the moment. I think when it comes down to it, there's a precedent that's been set of if a club is mismanaged, this is one of the ways that they can be punished. So we might end up seeing that happening. But I can fully appreciate. I've got sympathy for the management team, the squads of players, and the fans because we know what it's like to be mismanaged as a club.
Yeah.
I can see where that's coming from.
Yeah, great stuff. Okay, well, we're going to take a slightly different angle now. We're going to get ex-player on in the shape of Andy Cousins and see what he thinks about it all. If that's all right with you, Matt.
Yeah, bring him in.
Evening, Andy. How are you doing?
Evening, guys. Very well, thank you. Are you?
Very well, thank you for asking.
Bad, thanks.
First things first. I mean, I've seen a couple of your tweets, so I've got a general idea of what you make of the farcical. But yeah, give us it as loud and proud as you like. How would you feel as a player if you were a player at one of these top six, Super Six clubs, should I say? And would you be as embarrassed as probably what James Milner looked the other night?
I think absolutely. I think Milner and I think a lot of the other players have come out and done the right thing. I think, ex-players, we look at it maybe slightly differently. I think now, it is run, the clubs are run totally differently. But I think to not actually have any communication with the management, to have any communication with the players, and by the sounds of it, no communication with anybody else in the football club is an absolute disgrace. Because they're the people who are having to go and play these things. They're the people who are going to, go and they're making their chairman 300 million a week or whatever they're going to be earning by going into this Super League. They should have some sort of say. And the players very loudly have come out in support of not doing what they wanted to do, and some of them even called for the heads of chairmans and people to drop out of the football, totally. And I think, for me, I think when it first came out, it wasn't a surprise. I think when you look at the teams which are there, they're all in debt. Pretty much every single one of them, I think, is in debt. Yes, they've got the loans against the stadiums and everything else, but it's still a debt. You look at Spain in particular. I think Perez he seems to be the driving force behind this. 900 million in debt. It's Barcelona over $1 billion in debt. These two teams and Perez in particular, and some of the stuff he's come out and said is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to supporters. It's an embarrassment to players. It's an embarrassment to a lot of people who are watching and love football. Growing up as a kid, you want to play football in the World Cup. You want to play for your team. You want to play in the FA Cup. You want to play for your country. And if this Super League was going to go ahead, then that was taken away from the players, not of a fault of the players, but a fault of the chairman itself and one person. So I think it was a very ill-advised by whoever decided. The interesting thing for me will be who instigated the whole of the conversations. Who was the one who started this conversation with the so-called top six in this country, which we know that, let's be honest, Tottenham are not in the top six. Arsenal at the minute are not in the top six. They might be in their fan base. They might be worldwide. We should be in that top six. We have a massive fan base around the world. You look at the division at the minute, West Ham, 4th in the league. These should be included. But they wanted to close shop and they wanted to make as much money as possible. They wanted deep pockets, and they've got deep pockets. I was listening to the guy beforehand, and you talk about what sanctions should be done for these teams. Nobody gave two hoots about us when we were in that situation. And if you look at all the teams, there was a lot of teams who have had points deductions and things like that going forward. Look, hit them hard, hit them really hard, because they need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And how they hit them hard. Do they hit the chairman? Do they hit the players? It's not the players' fault, but it wasn't the players' fault at Leeds when we went down. It wasn't the players' fault at Portsmouth. It wasn't the players' fault at all the other clubs which have gone into administration over the years and lost point because of chairman ill-advised or running the football clubs in the wrong manner. So I think that for me, points deduction would be definitely something I think I would look at, because I think that hurts them. It hurts them in Europe. It hurts them in people coming over to play for them next year. They'll still make it back. As the guy said before, all these spectators, the plastic spectators at Man United and Liverpool's and people like that, where they are, just tourists who are coming over who want to go and watch, as I say, a Man United, a big club as such. But go watch a proper game. Go watch Harrogate Town. They weren't thinking of Harrogate Town, were they, when they were doing this? They weren't thinking of Blackpool. They weren't thinking of Carlisle. They weren't thinking of these teams in the last however many months who are really, really struggling for money, who are having to lay people off, not play players. They haven't had any fans in for over a season. Now there's no revenue coming into that football club, and they're talking about lining their pockets by X amount of millions, a week. It just stinks from start to finish, if you ask me.
Yeah, we had a couple of interesting comments while you've been talking there, Andy. One from Will Abbott saying you cannot punish a club without hurting the fans. And then this one, which is kind of linked. Do you think the club should be punished regardless of what it does to the fans? Rules are rules, after all. And like you say, you've alluded to the situation we were in those years ago.
If you look, absolutely. If you look at what happened to us, That's not the players' fault. That's not the management's fault. It's nobody on the football pitch. Look at Portsmouth. Look at all the other clubs which have gone through it. It's not the players' fault. It's not the management's fault. It's the hierarchy's fault. It's the people up top. It's the chairmans who have look at Leeds. I would class Peter Ridsdale. He was a fan. He took a risk. He took a massive risk with Leeds United, and that risk failed. Now, that's not the players' fault to a certain point. And when we went into administration, eventually further down the line, because that was the catalyst. That was the start of the downfall for us. When we went into administration, we had to, we took the points deduction and everything else which we took. There was no consideration of the players then. There was no consideration about what was going to happen to these players and their livelihoods and their, families and everything else which goes behind it. Look, every single one of these players who plays for these so-called top 6 teams are multi-millionaires. Are they going to stick around? Well, let's see. Let's see if they've got any loyalty in the game. Let's see if they've got any loyalty of staying where they are, where the times are a little bit harder. And they're not, they're not going to get, the Champions League football this year. They might have to wait another year for that. Let's see if they can bring, attract the players in. Let's try and bring this gap a little bit closer together. The top 6 have got oodles of cash they can borrow from banks and so on and so forth, and hedge funds that they can be doing what they're doing. You look at Man United, they bought them, put them 600, 900 million in debt within, 24 hours. And they use that debt and they pay themselves millions and millions of pounds a year.
How do you think they can be? What do you think is going to be considered a fair punishment? We've had a comment here from Hannah Bradley. She's worried that punishments just simply won't happen because they are the big 6, and seem to think that they can control English football. What would you consider fair for their part in it?
To be honest, I actually agree with Hannah there. I think they've got a lot of power. And I think there'll be uproar with a lot of other people that the punishment won't be harsh enough to the crime really of what they've done. They've tried to do over the Premier League. They've tried to do over one of the most prestigious cups in the world, which is the FA Cup. Then UEFA came out and obviously said about sanctioning that they won't play in the World Cups and so on and so forth. We go back to Perez. He turned around and said, "Well, we'll make our own World Cup." That's the kind of people you're talking about. You've got to hit them. You've got to hit them hard in the pocket. Do you hit the chairman itself, the 6 chairman or the 6 people who are involved with it?
The thing is, can you hurt them financially? The only way to hurt these people is financially, but they've got money coming out their ears. Do you know what I mean? It's a few hundred grand, few million, even 100 million is not going to hurt those 6 clubs that much.
Well, do you take the TV rights off them for the next year? Possibly. I don't know.
Not just that. I mean, from a perspective of fit and proper owners. If you make them not fit and proper owners, you put them into a position where they've then got to act. They're not going to get a good deal on the club that they will then be in a position where they're forced to sell. So is there something associated with the fit and proper owners approach that then you could sanction them in that way? And
well, that needs to be looked at as well, doesn't it? In lots of circumstances, as going forward. I think what it will do is it will be. There's going to be a change in football. I think in the top end of football. I think the Champions League is something which they're wanting to change. And I think this is just the start of it. For me, I think the Champions League is something that these big clubs don't like the format for some reason. I don't like the format personally. It's the Champions League. It should be the champions of the country go off and play, and they're playing that league. They're playing a league. They're playing a knockout, however it will be, because I'm a traditionalist in that sense, and that's how I grew up. I understand it's all about money, and I understand that it's they can create a hell of a lot of money coming through, the Champions League because of how many games there is now, and that's basically what it's for. It's just to create more money. So I don't know what their hidden agenda is, but I think there's a hidden agenda. I think there's something else which they want to do. And is this the start of a negotiation for them with UEFA, with FIFA, with the Premier League, with all these kind of people? It just feels there's something else bubbling along. Just on
that, Andy, just with you saying there's something else. I read something earlier about the Champions League in, I think it's 2024. I don't know if anyone else has seen this.
Yeah, it goes to 32 to 36.
That's right, but it's not based on league positions. So it's based on I can't remember the exact. If anybody can remember or seen the tweet, if you could just pop it in the comments. But it was based on something to do with the illustrativity, if that's a word. You know how big the club is. So effectively, Manchester United could finish in 7th place or 6th place and still get in the Champions League over, say, potentially us who finished 4th or 5th.
Yeah, that for me again, that's very similar to what they're trying to do here with this Super League. They're basically guaranteeing it through your revenue. Well, your revenue itself isn't, something that you can. It should be all about places and positions in the league. So you're telling me that, for instance, in that situation, let's say, for instance, we go on and win the league like Leicester did, but we don't get in the Champions League because our revenue's 7th.
Jamie's just commented and commented privately. It's what he said is that if there's a club with a high UEFA coefficient score and don't qualify through normal means, they can still enter. Basically, high reputation clubs like Scum can still qualify if they finish 5th or 6th, which is just absolute bonkers. How can you congratulate and reward a club that has had an absolutely shit season? It's just not. It's not the way football should be. Certainly for me, and I think for the
Is this what they were alluding to with this, with this proposal, which they've been talking about? Is this what they actually now have gone in and actually done a deal with them to get this all up and running? It is that stinks for me. It's the Champions League. When I was a kid, and I'm guessing a lot of people out there was the champions. You won the league and you got rewarded by able to go and potentially go and win the European Cup, which is the biggest prestigious cup which we can win. In club football, it's because if you're in there, you've already won the league, so you've won one, and the next bit is to go and beat the best in Europe. So for me, I think it's a very that'd be a very sticky wicket as well. I think for a lot of Premier League clubs, in particular, because the revenue is quite high, obviously in there. Do you look at Rangers and Celtic in that sense as well? Their revenue is going to be quite high as well. So does that mean they just automatically get 2 places in there because their revenue worldwide is big because of the clubs which they have and the history they have? The same with us. We'll get punished, and Burnley, for instance, will get punished. The people who have got the smaller stadiums would get punished because they can't physically get the revenue what a Man United does because they've got an 80,000 stadium.
It's almost fraudulent, isn't it? It's the bullies of the playground. It's not what football's about. And for one, I'm sure there will probably be more of an uproar about this and a lot more to come out in the coming sort of weeks and months.
But just talking about bullies on that. So Andrea Agnelli at Juve. This is so Ed Woodward was in a situation where he used to work for JP Morgan, and he will certainly have been involved in brokering whatever deal had come about. Andrea Agnelli, though, was the chairman of the ECA and at the same time the chief exec at Juve. So he was kind of in a position of power representing hundreds of European clubs, but all of a sudden actually he wasn't representing hundreds of European clubs. He was only representing 12 to 15. Now that really stinks because he was in a position of power for all of those clubs, representing all of those clubs, and all of a sudden actually what comes out is he's got a vested interest in just looking after the cream of the turnover of those clubs. And that really is what stinks to me. It's just endemic in the game at the top.
Yeah. 100%. I think the top teams have got too big. I think the chairman think they've lost touch of what a football club's all about. Don't get me wrong, there's some which are absolutely brilliant. Our guy, we know what Andrea's like. I thought when I think it was Bill Kenwright came out at Everton, the Everton chairman came out and he's put a statement out. I thought that was absolutely spot on as well. You've got some very, very good chairmen out there, but these have put a bad name against not all chairmen, but a lot of people will be now recognising English football. They'll have corrupt chairmen and blah, 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 blah. We know that happens in Italy. We know that happens most likely in Spain. The thing which I like about it, if this is a Super League, there's 3 clubs which should be in that league, full stop. There should be Bayern Munich, there should be Borussia Dortmund, and there should be Paris Saint-Germain. All 3 of them have said no. They've come out and said, we didn't do it. So straight away, they didn't do it because, the Germans are owned 51% by the fans, which is a great idea. and 49% by themselves. But Paris Saint-Germain don't need the money, so they've gone, no, we're not interested in that. That's not what we want football about. So, how do you class these top teams? How have they come back and gone? Or Tottenham, who haven't won anything won the league since 1951 or whatever. How do you class Tottenham as being in the top 6 teams in this country? Are we going back to what we were saying there? Is it down to the revenue? Is it down to that side of it, which is what they've worked on? Their revenue at Tottenham most likely is very good because of the Asian market through Son, and that has created their market abroad and out in China and that side of the world. It's huge. As did Man United did the same with Sun Park, who came in. Exactly the same thing. It was creating that global brand. But we've got that global brand. We've got Bielsa. We've got the Argentinian people now want to watch. We've got the Spanish people who want to watch. Our figures are huge now because of Bielsa and because of how we play, but also because of his reputation from that. So I don't understand how they've got people, certain clubs into this. I really don't. And I think if you were a chairman of one of these clubs, realistically, if they had a call from that, you'd walk away thinking, this is a bit wrong. You've got your first thought process has to be, this is a bit wrong. But then if you put it as a business and purely as a business, then you go, I can earn 300 million every month. I'll have a bit of that. If you run it, if you're looking at it as a pure business opportunity, which is what they've done, because the businessmen, do they need any more money? They're all billionaires. Do they actually need any more money? The answer is no. But when you get that rich, you want more of it.
It's greed, and it is greed, and that's what it is. That's what it does come down to. One of the other guests, actually, Simon, the Man U fan who was in a moment ago, he just said that the Super League proposals include that income from TV and sponsorship would favour the founding clubs, with 32.5% of the pot shared equally between the 15 clubs, and another 32.5% between all Super League clubs, including 5 qualifiers. So basically what they're saying was, if you come on and be a founding member, you're in for a bigger slice of the pie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
It's money, isn't it? This is where football is going, and I love Neville and Carragher this last week. Neville in particular, fantastic. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. He's a true fan, and he's obviously got a vested interest in Salford as well, where he's which is a lower league. And I think that what he's said and how he's come about has been absolutely spot on. And I think that for me, Gary Neville kind of spoke about the whole thing for every supporter out there, and I think that as a supporter, you want your clubs to go up and down. You want your clubs to be successful. You want your clubs to get into Europe by the right means of winning football matches, finishing in that top 4, top 5, top whatever it's going to be, and not by having, another avenue in if you are so-called a big club. How do you come out of being a big club to a small club? It just stinks. As you say, it is just all about money, and that's the problem, with football. I do think it was different. I know people will say, but I think it was different when Sky got involved. Sky just basically took over the old championship, which obviously we won last. But there was still relegation and promotion. You could still come up and into it, and you get relegated out of it. It was still the league side of it. And one thing he came out with was, and he's totally right, the stadiums at that point were shocking. And the money which came in through Sky did create better stadiums, safer stadiums, better facilities for us all to watch football, and also possibly in this country, some of the best players in the world to come and play here as well. So it's totally. I know people have said, Sky have done the same thing before. It's just the same as what they've done. It's nothing like what Sky have done. Sky came in and made it better. They saw a market for people to buy it, which is
Good point.
We could all look at it and go, that's a bit harsh, and it keeps going up and up and up. But we're getting more and more games, and we do pay our subscription per month to watch football, to watch any sport. This isn't just football. I think what you've got also, if you go back to the original point, was you've got Americans involved 90% of the time. If you look at the American franchise system of basketball in particular, if you go to a basketball game, you play that basketball team 5 times that week. Well, the stadiums are not full because you're bored of watching the same team every week. And that's basically what they wanted. Imagine 10 years' time you're playing against Real Madrid every week. You'd just be like, there's just not the whole thing about it. Just, all that side of it, you kind of think it's just wrong. But, as I say, the Americans just looked at it and just saw pound signs and wanted to fill the pockets a bit more.
That's it. As you said, the greedy get greedier. Listen, Andy, some absolutely fantastic points in there. Thanks ever so much for agreeing to join us at such short notice this evening and get some, as I say, some real strong points across. Really appreciate it. Thanks ever so much again from everybody at the pod. And we'll catch up soon in the near future, hopefully for a beer around Ellen Road, in the not too distant future.
Well, hopefully we'll be in on the last game of the season. Fingers crossed.
Take it easy.
If everything keeps going in the way we are, we'll all, hopefully there'll be 8 to 10,000 of us in anyhow to watch it on the last game of the season. So, but no, thank you very much, and I'll enjoy the rest of the evening. Speak to you soon. Cheers, guys. See you later.
See you later.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye. Well, certainly had a lot to say, but some fantastic points in there, weren't there?
There were, yeah, and he's a top bloke, but he's also one that shoots from the hip. He's not going to. Before we start talking,
shall we just bring in the better late than never Simon Johnson, OKB's own. Sorry, Simon, I didn't want to interrupt Andy while he was going off on one. Then
no, it was really interesting. I'm glad you did, and I was really enjoying what he was saying. To be fair,
how's things, mate? Anyway, all right. Did you enjoy your tea?
But I just have to go with the flow, mate.
We know where's the pants, mate. We know where's the pants.
Exactly that.
We are going to get a Spurs fan in a moment or two, Sam. But before we do, I just wanted to get a bit of an idea of you and what your feelings were about it, and I suppose how you'd feel as turning up to a game against a competition. And actually, just finding out the day before that you've been put forward for this European Super League, we're not even fucking hearing about it before the day before.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm quite a laid-back person, Luke. So it wouldn't have had too much of an impact on myself, if I'm being totally honest. That's sort of the God's honest truth. Obviously, a few players have got right up there, not happy. But for me, I just don't see the big deal in it all. They've tried to make something work. It was never going to, in my opinion. And so just everybody get on with it and crack on,
Yeah. But I mean, surely, I mean, as a player, Simon, you've obviously been and played at a decent standard in the Premier League and stuff. And what sort of effect would that have had on the players before a game? Because it can't have a positive effect, surely.
No, I mean, obviously, from a Liverpool player's perspective, especially players like Jordan Henderson that made a heart in the sleeve, it's going to hurt. I don't think people truly understand the sort of emotional investment football players have in the clubs that they represent and the game itself. It's really hard to understand that. So for players like that, it would have touched a nerve for sure. But then again, like I said, for players like myself, it would have been sort of water off a duck's back, to be honest.
So you're in a situation where all of this is unfolding through the day, and you're travelling across to what you know is going to be a tough game, going over to Ellen Road and having to play against Leeds. You're in a situation where what's being said in the media is players won't be allowed to play for their national sides. Players won't be allowed to play in the Premier League if they're going to go into this league. And as a player that actually you've got no say at all in this. While ever you're at that club, what's being done to you is being done by the owners, and effectively what they think at that time is that they can do what they want. That's got to have an impact on you as an individual player.
I understand what you're saying. To be honest, I weren't looking at it from an international's perspective then. I mean, look, if you're obviously due to fly off to a World Cup or a Euros and you're not going to be able to do that, it's obviously going to be an issue for you. And quite rightly, a lot of players will be fuming. But
I mean, I'll put that into a bit of context. In what I mean is, you put yourself in Harry Kane's shoes.
Yeah,
he's at Spurs, and I'm speaking for him here, but you know, the words in the media and so on are about that. He's getting pissed off because he's running his blood to water in every game. He's scoring all of these goals. He's now, I think, the highest scorer in the Premier League history without ever having won it. And you're in a situation where now the owners of your club have made a decision that may end up seeing you not able to play for your country, wear that shirt and wear the armband that he's been wearing.
Yeah, I understand.
You've got to think that that's. I mean, that's. You can't ever replace that. There's nothing else that'll do that. Money's not going to cover that.
I mean, if you said that that potentially could happen to a player, nobody would believe it. It's a bit extreme, isn't it, really? But I think the reality of it is that players are dictated to anyway, right the way through their careers. It's nothing new. It's just a bit extreme. I think a lot of players.
Interesting.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually had this conversation with someone the other day, and when I look back at my own career, I don't really have control of anything. I was just doing as I was told, and that's just the way it is.
Interesting take on it. Very, very, completely the opposite to what I thought you might have said, actually, Simon. As a player and things, it's really opened my eyes a little bit, I think. But if I know Gilly's put a little bit of context in there, but if you had the opportunity to play for, I don't know, let's use an example. Pretend you'd never had anything to do with Leeds. You had an opportunity to play for Leeds and potentially go to the World Cup, or you could play in this European Super League week in, week out, and know that you'd never have the opportunity to, you know, hypothetically speaking, say you were an England regular, and you had these two options in front of you. Surely, as a player, you're going to want to play for Leeds in the Premier League and have that opportunity of representing your country. Or do you just, as you said, sort of follow your feet and just end up where you end up and crack on?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, like I say, nobody could have ever envisaged this was going to happen. So, some say it's been on the cards. I've always had it in the back of my mind that it could potentially happen, but I never thought they'd try it because I just thought it would be a non-goer. But at the end of the day, you know, I know what my preference would be. It would obviously be to play for the Leeds and try and represent the country. But at the end of the day, these clubs pay their wages, and you know, if they made that decision and everything went through, I don't think the players would have any say in that. They would have had to do what they was told.
Yeah.
And how would you feel? Obviously, growing up, you're a West Brom fan. So as a lad, how would you feel if your club had entered this competition? So knowing that you're only going to be playing 5 times in England, and then your team, you know, how often are you actually realistically going to be able to watch your local heroes play football?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have been happy about that. I mean, the Premier League is what it is, and you know, it might come across biased, but it is the best league in the world, and so I don't understand what they was actually trying to achieve by going off gallivanting doing what they was trying to do. It just makes no sense to me, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, nice. I suppose you've probably. I mean, I'm obviously a little bit surprised, but I suppose like when you're playing at that level and you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week anyway, it doesn't really matter whereabouts you kick a ball, does it? Whether it's in the local park or whether it's at, you know, the Etihad or bloody Bernabeu, you know. So yeah, but no, a little bit surprised, and obviously quite a different take on how Andy saw it. And Andy obviously took as an ex-player as well, took a slightly different stance.
I mean, look, I'm not saying I agreed with what they was trying to do, not by any stretch.
No.
I mean, I just think these type of guys, they live a totally different life to us. That where we want for things quite small, their vision's a lot bigger, you know, and that's the type of people these are that we're dealing with, you know, and you can't have it both ways. The Premier League accepted them in to do their work in this country, and you know, they should have known that there'd be a motive, more of a motive to get out at some point, you know. So you can't have your cake and eat it, you know.
Nah, fair point. But yeah, thanks. Are you staying with us, Simon, while we speak to the rest, or are you busy doing football, or
No, that's totally.
You're not too busy. You're not too busy setting up a European Super League behind closed doors, are you?
I'm keeping my mouth shut for now.
Okay. All right, what we'll do then, we will welcome in Jamie, who everybody else might know better as @Newells_EN. He is responsible for that Newells account. He did a fantastic interview earlier on this year with myself and I think, was it Shannon? So yeah, we'll get him in. He's actually a Spurs fan at heart and found Newells by accident, I suppose. But yeah, welcome in. How you doing, Jamie?
How's it going? Are you well?
Good. Yeah, very well. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you lads too. Thanks for inviting me on.
Welcome along.
I think I'll just start off there by Simon made some great points, I thought Simon made some great points because us fans were really guilty sometimes of forgetting about the fact that players are employees of the club and the owner is paying their wages. We all have jobs outside of this football hysteria. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but in many jobs I've had, the owner has done things that I didn't agree with. And my first reaction was never, I'm going to walk out the door. You know, it was always, okay, I don't agree with what the owner is doing, but this person pays my wages, pays my mortgage, pays my rent. So I'm going to have to learn to accept it and get on with it. So I think Simon made a great point there in terms of, like, we can't expect the players to suddenly all become revolutionaries and say they're going to leave the club or, you know, they're going to put up a fight against this because the club is paying their wages. It's a job. And I think fans forget about that a lot. I'm guilty of it. We think that every player that plays in the Premier League, you know, is so loyal to their clubs. They've got clubs tattooed all over them. It's just not the case, you know, that they're employees, as Simon said. And I think that's a really good point.
That's a good perspective to look at it, Jamie. But they're not only numbers and employees, are they? They're role models for young kids. And for a lot of the local communities, they're often seen in hospitals and local schools. So while that's a great perspective, I think it's great to look at it from that side. I also think it's worth noting that they're not just any old employee that doesn't agree with what their employer's doing, because they're setting an example effectively for up to probably potentially millions of kids around the world. If they were to sit back then and just accept that their boss wants more money, how do you think that might look?
Look, I completely agree with you. I think that, you know, deep down, if you feel that this move for the Super League is against your morals and against everything you believe in, you should come out and say it, and you should stand your ground. But they're in a difficult position. I think they're in a difficult position, and they've been made the scapegoats for this. You know, I think you were talking there about the international tournaments and not being able to play for England and all that. That was completely out of order. Whoever made that threat, I think it was, I don't know, was it UEFA or FIFA? Yeah. Because really, the international scene and the teams, they don't have anything to do with the clubs, you know, and the clubs would only be happy if the players couldn't play international, right? They wouldn't come back injured and they'd be available for them every week in the Super League. I thought that was a really harsh threat to say that they couldn't play international football. I'm completely on board with sanctions in the club game, but I thought it was out of order to say, okay, if this player plays in the Super League or, you know, is an employee of a Super League club, they're not going to be allowed to play for England. I just think that's incredibly harsh. But no, I agree with your point. I think the players have a voice. They should stand up. They should air their views. But I still think they're in a difficult position as employees of these clubs who have gone behind their backs and behind the coach's back to try and form this league. For me, you know, the problem is that you have billionaire businessmen running football clubs in England, in other countries. Certainly in England, they have no connection with the game of football whatsoever. And it's been a problem for, you know, over 20 years now, since Roman Abramovich came in, since the Glazers came into Man United. And this is almost, I don't even think it's the straw that broke the camel's back yet, because they're going to come back and try and form a league again in another guise. Of course they will. But it's not something that has suddenly just aired its head now. This is a problem that has been going on for 20 years. you know.
So just to address your point on that, in terms of the players and the way that the players are feeling, and the fact, you know, all right, yeah, we recognise they are employees of the club, and that's the job that they do. But if I get annoyed at my employer, I hand my notice in and I leave. The players aren't really in that position. The owners can hold on to their contracts if they want to hold on to that contract. They can stop them leaving. They can stop them playing for another club. So I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, there's a different dynamic there. Firstly, they're in the public eye. And if they try and force a move because they don't want to be at that club because of the way they've been treated by the club, they'll be demonised by those fans that had idolised them previously, which is putting them in a very difficult position. So for them, Milner came out and spoke against it, and I thought that was good. Now he's towards the end of his career and he's towards the end of his contract, so he's kind of in a different scenario to a younger player or the England captain or what have you. But yeah, it is also, it's a bit of a different context to say that it's their employer. You're accurate to say it, but at the same time, they don't have some of the freedoms that people not in the public eye and people not on a contract such as that are experiencing.
Yeah, no, I completely take that point. I agree with it. You can't just walk out. You can obviously say, I don't want to play for this club anymore and run down your contract, and I don't know, they can try and take you to court or whatever. But I think Simon's point was, and I agree with him, is that, okay, Milner came out and spoke about it. Henderson came out and spoke about it. The players that came out and spoke about it are the ones that we would have expected to have had a say. There's a lot of footballers. Yeah, there's a lot of footballers out there who probably don't give a shit. You know, I don't know, Simon, would you agree with me on that?
100%.
Do you know, like there's so many players who if you look through the clubs, there's a lot of players who don't do a lot of media duties. They're not interviewed by Sky. They're never on press conferences because they don't want to be, and they're not comfortable in front of the camera, and they don't have anything to say. They're brilliant at football, and they're making a living from it. But if they're going to go and play in the Super League tomorrow because somebody tells them to do it, they'll probably do it. I think we can't be, you know, misled by the fact that every player in the Premier League is some sort of revolutionary hero that's going to come out and say this is wrong. Some of them will, that we have expected have done. The Gary Nevilles, the Jamie Carragers, you know, Milner, Henderson. But like, there's loads of players in the background who don't give a shit.
Yeah,
with that. Go on, Simon.
No, I was just going to say, like, I know a lot of players in the past that don't even like football. They're just lucky that they're pretty good at it and earn decent living. So things like this, like, you won't have the slightest bit of bother on him at all.
David Batty didn't like football. He was just brilliant at it. He didn't watch it. He didn't get involved in it.
With that in mind, then, do you think some players' eyes might have lit up, thinking, actually, I'm in for a bumper contract here?
100%, 100%. Some of them would have been rubbing hands together. You know?
Do you reckon? That surprises me. I think because of the public outrage, and obviously I assumed that everybody felt like me, you know, and I think the majority of fat football fans probably did. However, just to take a completely different dynamic, you've got players like, I mean, coming towards it, even you know, just getting into the first team and their team's going into this European Super League. They're going to be guaranteed playing big teams week in, week out. You know, they're going to get a big wedge put in the pocket every week. I never really actually thought about that until now, so I'm glad we spoke about that.
Yeah, I mean, we want players to have loyalties to clubs. We want them to play for the clubs that they support, but there's little things that come out all the time that make us realise. The big one for me is like when Matt Doherty joined Spurs, right? They dug up an old tweet where he was supporting Arsenal and they made him delete it for the social media account. And I think you're getting that all the time. I think you're getting players who are coming from other countries, from Spain, and they probably don't even know anything about the club they're coming to sign for. You know, they've just seen the contract and they've thought, wow, the wages are good, the salary's great. You know, I've always wanted to play in England, maybe. But I don't think they know anything about the club they're coming to sign for. And that's just the reality. And I think we as fans, we forget about that a lot.
Yeah. So a little bit more about you as a Spurs fan then, Jamie. How on earth did fucking Spurs get picked as part of this Super Six?
It's a joke. It's a joke. Like I mean, I agree with what everyone else from the other clubs have said. We have absolutely no right being in that group. You know, no right. I can understand why we were, because Daniel Levy, the owner, is incredibly ambitious and he's been on a mission to try and put Spurs at the top level of European football. Now, he's tried to go about that the right way in the past, you know, hiring Pochettino, spending a lot of money on players, building the stadium. And then he thought, right, I'm going to hire Mourinho. That'll really make us look like we're a big club. That we all know how that's worked out. So I think it's an incredible error of judgment on Levy's part to try and go in with these bigger clubs.
The back door, going with the back door, basically.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, look at us. We have Mourinho. We have a huge stadium. We've got Harry Kane. We've got Gareth Bale. But we shouldn't be there at all. We shouldn't be there at all. We've tried and failed.
Just on Mourinho, while we're there, Jamie, do you think this sacking's got anything to do with it?
No, I think he was sacked because of the performances, and I think he's destroyed the dressing room. I watched the game tonight, the win over Southampton, and the players afterwards, they all look relieved. They were like hugging each other, fist bumps. It looked like, when there's a bully in school and the bully finally leaves, and everyone's like, fucking hell, thank God they're gone. Our teachers that everybody hates.
The reason I mentioned that, I don't know if you've heard a couple of WhatsApp messages going around about, I think it was Jamie Redknapp.
I heard it, yeah.
So Jamie Redknapp, that's going around. And also how thankful Kane was to Mourinho when he didn't actually have to be. Through Twitter, he thanked him publicly on Twitter. It just made me read into it a little bit more. I didn't know whether Mourinho had something to say to Levy about this Super League or whether he was just shy.
No, I think it was just the timing of it. I think Levy'd made his mind up already. I think Mourinho was gone, and it just happened to come around the same time as they announced the Super League. He had to go. It's just terrible appointment in the first place.
Fair point. And then before we do let you shoot off, Jamie. So how do we punish Spurs and how do we punish Levy?
I've been thinking about this. I think probably the points deduction is the best way to go, but it's a double-edged sword because if you give them a points deduction and they can't play in Europe next season, it hurts the reputation of the clubs, which we need to do. The clubs need to be taken down a notch now. You need to make a situation where players want to leave and good players don't want to sign for them for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
The reputations need to come down. But unfortunately, I think if the sanctions are too heavy, if they're anything like points deductions or banning them from the Champions League or the Europa League, they're going to try and break away again. They're going. I'm under no illusion that they're going to try it again. It's not over now. Everyone is celebrating. It's not over. They're going to do it again, and they'll come back next time. It'll be something that's less confrontational. It'll be something that's more inclusive. They'll say, "Oh, there's going to be more teams, and there's going to be a qualification round, and we've got a better logo, and we've got a really nice website." And it's going to happen again in a different guise. It's definitely not over because these owners, this is what they want. They want to turn it into an Americanized sport like the NFL, where there's franchises, where clubs can move cities. This is what they want. They don't have the good of football in their hearts. They don't.
Yes, it's not what we want to see as football fans, is it? We don't want it to become a circus. I mean, it almost has over the last 15 years with the oil money and the Americans coming in and sort of buying into them. Just to touch upon what you said about deduction of points and it being a double-edged sword, I totally agree. It also makes me think that they're probably going to overspend on players to make sure that they can recoup that 20 points or however many points it is. So would an embargo work?
Yeah, I think so. Anything to make the club not an attractive prospect anymore for players and even for these global fans that they've been targeting with this European Super League. Because, what they're trying to do, the Florentino Perez and the other owners who say, we need to target this global market now, these young kids who don't want to watch 90 minutes, they're kind of right in a way because there is a generation of football fans who are like that. You lads are on Twitter, you see it. They're all like fan accounts for Haaland, Mbappe, Messi. They follow players. They don't follow clubs, Yeah,
but he also said that they weren't into the game at all, and that's clearly not true. There's a load of them that are deeply into the game. They're just not into the clubs in the way that we used to be.
Yeah,
they don't have that emotion about the clubs that the previous generations had, but they're into the game.
I agree and I don't agree. They're into watching goals and they're into things happening, but they can't sit for 90 minutes because they've been grown up in this instant gratification culture where they need everything instantly, whether it's Tinder, TikTok or whatever. They want that buzz. So 90 minutes is boring the hell out of them. Whereas us, we're a bit older. We grew up watching 90 minutes, and we grew up to
we pray for extra time and penalties, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, there's a lot of kids these days who are learning about football through FIFA. You know, they learn about the players because they sign them in Ultimate Team or whatever. They're not watching these players on TV playing football until they've discovered them on FIFA. So the fans that the European Super League are trying to target are out there, and they are taking over. And I don't really know what to do. I think we need to challenge this. 90-minute games, they're too long. No, that's the way football was founded and why it's thrived and been successful. You know, it needs to be challenged. So it's
think it's only a matter of time before more of the Premiership's swallowed up by bigger owners and I say bigger owners, but by more wealthy owners and potentially more powerful owners.
It's already there. It's already there.
You know,
I mean, how many clubs are still under English ownership? There's only 3 or 4, I think. There's Newcastle, Spurs, Brighton, 1 or 2 others. So it's already there. I mean, this is the reason why I've been watching Argentinian football for the last 3 or 4 years and following you as old boys, because
up the knobs.
Yeah, it's still, you know, the football in Argentina is still what I grew up with. It's players playing for their hometown clubs, fans being allowed to come in with flags and banners and having a bit of pyro. People allowed to be standing up in the stadiums. So, you know, and in Argentina, they don't allow private ownership. The clubs are owned by the fans. I'm not going to say that England can go back to that, because I don't think they can. They're gone too far. They can't go back to a democracy whereby, you know, foreign owners are outlawed. It just won't happen.
Tell you what, Jamie, you need to get to Ellen Road, because that's probably the nearest you're going to get to it, truthfully, in the whole of the UK. Apart from your non-league sides and your smaller clubs, in terms of Premiership, there are very few real clubs left, but Leeds and we are certainly one of them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been over there and really impressed by it. There's a few other clubs as well. I like Palace. I always liked Palace when they came to White Hart Lane away days. I hate West Ham, but I kind of respect them as well. But they just have a shit stadium, so I feel sorry for them. And actually, just to mention, Daniel Levy tried to move us to that stadium. So, you know, this isn't the first time he's kind of tried to do something pretty sly to the fans. We could have been in Stratford. So I think people forget about that a lot.
Well, every cloud and all that. Listen, Jamie, again, pleasure talking to you. You're an absolute diamond. Always got plenty to say, and really appreciate you coming on from everybody at Ought to Know Better. We will certainly catch up in the meantime. But yeah, everybody, Jamie from at Newell's England _EN.
Good to meet you, Jamie.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, Jamie.
All the best. See you later.
Well,
cool. And Alex has jumped back on. So Alex, the Liverpool fans jumped back on as well. So unfortunately, he doesn't have his cameras available, but we'll bring him in now and we'll be able to ask some questions there as well.
Yeah, let's get him on. Let's get it on.
Alex, we got you? Hello?
Good evening, Alex.
Hello?
Hello?
There we go. We got you now. Was that an headset that you didn't have on? No, we still don't have him. He's gone again.
They're having a stats episode from the other night, aren't we? Gilly and I did a stats episode without stats.
Great. In fact, I did see Stats join, but then he dropped off again tonight.
Well. Yeah, I think he's struggling with his Tinterweb. Alex, are you there, mate? Are you there, mate?
No, we've not got him, have we?
Don't look like he's here.
Well,
we'll
let's
remove
go.
you, Alex. If you are still there. I can hear him very faintly.
Yeah, same.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. We got there.
Right?
Yeah, we're all right. We're all right. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. Better now.
Cool. Well, you done with work?
Yeah, well, I'm nearly there, yeah.
Better now that you're not getting screwed over by owners of your club.
It's disgraceful, really. Can't believe it.
Go on. Just one of the first questions I asked with Side, the first guy that we spoke to was the emotions, the range of emotions he went through as a fan of a club whose owners were involved in this. Talk us through. You know, how did it feel? Is that what happening?
I couldn't believe it, to be quite honest with you. Well, I say that. I couldn't believe that the Super League actually came in. It's been talked about for a few years now. I never actually thought that it'd come to light. But with the owners, I wasn't surprised whatsoever. It's kind of expected now with these American owners. So it wasn't much of a surprise. Just disappointing, really. It's brought absolute disgrace on the club and the fan base. And it's just really disappointing. I'm glad that we've pulled out, but it should never have got to that. So
do you think that the owners underestimated the weight of feeling that had come out of it?
Absolutely. There was a reason why the fans had no idea, and the manager had no idea, and the players had no idea, because they knew it wasn't going to go down well. They obviously didn't know how badly it was going to be taken. But the fans were never going to stand for that. We're a club built on tradition. I really don't know what they were. In fact, I do know what they were thinking. They were thinking money, and that's all that they were thinking. But they obviously got the club wrong. They've been in charge for a long time now. I'm surprised that they haven't realised by now the fan power that we have at Liverpool Football Club.
So I've known you for a while, and I've seen the pictures on Facebook of you travelling abroad with the club. Obviously, we weren't able to do that as a club for a while, but I've seen what you've done, where you've been, and so on. But a lot of that is the jeopardy of, we don't know if we're going to be here again next season. Is the way that I read it. We don't know if this is the last time that we'll be able to experience this. So we want to drink it all in right now. It won't feel that same way if you're playing against the same teams week in, week out, will it?
No, absolutely. I mean, when the draw's made, the group stage draw is the best day of the year. We're not looking for Real Madrid away and Barcelona away. Absolutely, we're sick of going to Madrid. We're looking at Red Star Belgrade, trips to Moscow. They're the trips that you look for, and that you're looking forward to.
Cheap ale.
Exactly. But it's not just that either. If you're not going to enjoy it, if you know that you're going to be guaranteed it, like, nobody wants to play the same teams over and over again. We got drawn against Napoli for quite a few years, and it just got to the point where we're like, oh God, we've got Napoli again, and that's not good. You want to play the smaller teams and stuff, and they've got a right to be there as well. It should be on merit, and to draw up a league where you're guaranteed a spot. I mean, I'm trying not to be disrespectful, but to include teams that have not even won a European Cup, I think it's an absolute disgrace.
Or even when you're looking at the trophies that they have won, they've not won the league since the 60s. Spurs.
Well, Huddersfield Town have more league titles than Tottenham Hotspur. So, do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Tottenham fans, but that's that's fine.
We
get in your lane, anyway. Spurs.
So, just one more I want to explore with you. Is your feelings around Rick Parry? So obviously he was a chief exec at Liverpool, and then he was working with Liverpool and Manchester United around Project Big Picture. What's the feeling towards him from a Liverpool fan these days?
I don't like a lot of people anyway. I didn't particularly like him. I think a lot's got to fall on these owners. And like I said before, it's been coming. The £77 tickets, we walked out in 77 minutes. And then furloughing staff were one step too far. And then this is just inexcusable. I don't think the owners will walk away, but they do need to sell up. I think they're absolutely finished. You can't. There's no way that the fans are going to take them back after what's gone on. I just think they're absolutely finished. You can't repair what they've done. They've hung the manager out to dry, the players out to dry, and the fans. So as far as I'm concerned, we need a change now, and I feel sorry for Manchester United fans as well, because they're in the same boat, really. It's just an absolute disgrace.
Exclusive. Liverpool fan likes Man U fans.
I don't think that's quite what he said. So obviously we played, our clubs played each other, and you know, during that time period, Leeds tried to make a bit of a stand, you know, the t-shirts and that sort of thing. So obviously that got up Klopp's nose. It got up my nose that he didn't like it, because that to me was my club making a stand against the owners that had caused this problem. It wasn't against the Liverpool players or the Liverpool manager or whatever. What's the view from outside Leeds as to what had happened there and the response to it?
Personally, I just think Klopp had a lot of heat on him, and he misunderstood the situation. Like, I didn't see anything wrong with what Leeds were doing whatsoever. Didn't see a problem with it. I thought the Leeds fans were absolutely excellent. They welcomed us down to Ellen Road to protest together. Obviously, it's difficult for the players and the manager. I think there was a lot that they wanted to say and they couldn't say, and obviously frustrating. Klopp took a dig at Gary Neville, and Gary Neville said that they were basically on the same side, which they were. It really is a difficult situation, and like I said, it really had been hung out to dry with it, and it's just a difficult situation. But I thought Leeds were excellent, to be honest.
Good. And there's just one of the guys on the watch along on YouTube has just said that there were talk of Shankly's grandson and the statue at Anfield. I think it was, if the ownership doesn't change, that he wanted it moved into the hotel in town or something along those lines. What's the feeling around that?
I personally think it's a bit too far with that, but the feeling's strong with this. Do you know what I mean? Like the values of the club. Shankly stood for a lot, socialism, and the way the club works at the moment. It's just not like that. We need to take a long, hard look at his neighbours, Everton. They seem to get a hell of a lot right off the pitch, and we should be looking towards doing the same, really.
Cool. Luke, anything else that you want to ask?
Yeah, I've asked all the fans from the other clubs tonight, Alex. What's a fair sanction, and how do we stop this happening in 2 or 3 years' time when potentially there's maybe 9 or 10 clubs from the Premier League considering it, maybe that haven't got their morals right? How do we stop it happening, and how do we, what do we do, or what do the FA do?
I personally don't think this will ever happen again. I don't think there'd be anyone that would want or dare even go down this route again. It's a matter of opinion. My fair opinion is that the clubs, the top 6 that decided to go over to the Super League, should be banned from Europe next season. And then the teams below should take their European spots for next season. That'd also...
I like the sound of that.
I say that reluctantly as well, because that means Everton get a place. But I think that'd be a fair route, and it also would have a financial impact as well. So that'd basically take up the role of a fine, if you like.
Almost a bit of an embargo as well, because none of the big players are going to want to come to a club that can't play in Europe next season.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost a triple-edged sword. I
think that's a fair enough punishment. It's difficult because whichever way you look at it, you are punishing the fans, and the players and the team that obviously had no idea about what were going on. But like I've seen it touched on a few times. Yourselves and other clubs have been deducted points and stuff for financial difficulties and stuff. So why shouldn't we be hit with a similar kind of things?
I think Luton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the early 2000s, I think they were docked 30 points.
Well, it's ridiculous, isn't it? So there definitely should be some kind of punishment. But just going back to this Super League thing, just because this has gone, UEFA are certainly not the good guys in this. The fight needs to carry on to them as well. It's gone on for years now with extortionate match ticket prices, reduced allocations in cup finals, and also the restructure of the Champions League. They've got a lot to answer for, and obviously I think they're getting off on a free because of everything that's going on with this Super League.
Yeah, we spoke about that briefly earlier, Alex. I don't know if you were there, but basically that they aim to rebrand so that there's a club with a high UEFA coefficient score that don't qualify can still qualify or can still enter. So basically, high reputation clubs like Liverpool, Scum, etc., can still qualify even if you don't finish in the Champions League places. So yeah, no, totally behind that, and I think that's set to actually come into place in 2023 or 2024 from memory. But yeah, absolutely behind that. So I think we've shown as a united fan base throughout the whole country, even fans of those Super Six, plus Tottenham and Arsenal, that we can pretty much fight and keep it as the people's game.
It certainly is. It's a game for the working class. And don't get me wrong,
Alex, we've lost you again slightly, mate. I don't know if you've moved away from your phone or done something different.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
That's
we got
better,
you.
yeah.
Could you just repeat what you just said? Sorry.
So I was just mentioning that yeah, we should continue to make it a people's game and stand by our beliefs as football fans. We've obviously shown that we can pretty much defeat anything that these multi-billionaires have put forward. You know, trying to line the pockets with a few more quid. But we've shown that the fans nationally and as a league are all united. And like just to add on to what you said about UEFA, we don't want to see a team finishing 5th or 6th in the league. And just because they've got a better reputation than the team that finishes 4th and in the Champions League, you know, what a lot of bollocks that is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the only way you should be able to qualify for the Champions League without finishing the qualification places is if you win the competition itself the season previous. I think that's the only way. It's the working class game. Don't get me wrong, it's not been working class since the introduction of the Premier League anyway, but it's our job to try and put a stop to it going any further now. Like I said, we need to stand against UEFA and also television companies to charge the prices that they charge Sky and BT. They're crooks as much as anyone. Also, there's a lot of problems in the game at the moment, but we've shown that together we can make a change and make a difference. So why not continue and fight everything together for the greater game?
Fair point.
Yeah, excellent. So, go on, Si.
No, I was just going to say, I'm apologise if you've covered this right before I got on. What is it that people are actually angry about? Is it because it would have made the Premier League less interesting?
I think it's a lack of competition. You've got protectionism in place where the rich get richer. There's a much greater gap between those at the top and those that are below, and you're removing the jeopardy of competition. Yeah, if they can never be dropped out of that competition and will always earn more money than everybody else, how is anybody ever going to knock them off that top perch? You know, exactly. There was a point made by somebody early on where there was a fan. It was just a random on Twitter had gone, well, I want to see Manchester United versus Barcelona. I don't want to see them playing West Brom. Was the statement. West Brom were one of the founders. You will know this better than I do. One of the founders of the league. If they'd have felt that way, where would Manchester United have been? It wouldn't have even happened. It wouldn't have got to that point. So it's the removal of jeopardy and the removal of competition means and fair competition and open competition. It's the closed shop element of it. That for me, that's the problem, and that's what I've seen the noise be about.
And as a player and a fan of the club, sorry, go on, Simon. No, sorry, you were gone.
No,
I'll say. Boots and cats. Just really quickly, all I was going to say is you look at Leeds' last 2 fixtures, and we've beaten Man City away with 10 men, and we've got a draw against Liverpool. You know, who makes them the top 6? Who makes these Super 6? Because we've shown that we downright deserve to be played against these teams in this league, and to take them out and we win the league in 3 years' time with no Scum. Shush. No Scum, no City, no Arsenal, no Spurs. No, do you know, it's almost a bit of a depleted league win as a fan.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I mean, I think my only probably gripe with it's not a gripe. I don't think the majority of people was looking at it from that perspective. If I'm being honest, that's why I was just when I hear people talk, I was confused where the anger's coming from and why people feel so strongly about it. That's all.
So, I mean, we've heard from Alex talking about playing the same teams week in, week out, where you kind of lose the passion for it. I mean, I'm talking for you there, Alex. I mean, I think you covered some of it, but from your perspective as a fan of Liverpool, what's the anger about?
Just competition. I mean, you've got. I think Pep Guardiola touched on it. You've got to be able to lose, or it's not a sport. We watch it because it's a sport, but there's nothing sport in there if you can't possibly lose and you're gifted a place year on year. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Liverpool Football Club exists to win trophies. Don't get me wrong. We exist to win trophies. We're a massive club, but not at the expense of losing everything that we stand for. The values of the club and the fan base is much more important than the trophies, and it always will be. I would rather us go down to the bottom tier and play how it should be played than go into any Super League. So it's just
fair play.
It's just a disgrace. Let me just get this straight. Every single team that makes up that football pyramid is equal to Liverpool Football Club. I think you said something earlier about Manchester United fan not wanting to play West Brom every week. I'm pretty sure West Brom beat Manchester United. I think it's highly disrespectful. Every team that makes up the football pyramid is extremely important, and I think it's very arrogant to think otherwise.
Yeah, it's a great point. And you know what? Without the other clubs, how can you benefit? And without the history of the other clubs, we wouldn't have the league that we have today.
Exactly.
You grow up as a kid. You grow up as a kid being competitive, don't you? And being in the school playground and learning that competitive edge, and that's what makes competitors. Are you telling me that if you get good enough at football, you're going to go into a league and just get paid a stupidly massive salary and not have to really doesn't matter if you're going for a tackle, to be fair, because you're still going to get the same wage for the next 5 seasons that you've been paid, because you can't get relegated and sold.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it comes back to what we was. I forgot his name.
Jamie.
Yeah. I would say it's 50-50 really. I think a lot of players are just there because they're good at football and not because they love it and they love the clubs they play for. So
but surely it's difficult to get to that extremely high level without that competitive nature in you.
I would agree. The competitive side, yeah. The competitive side, yes. But I don't know. I think it's. I mean, I'm probably talking from my own experiences here. Especially in the latter part of my career, I played because I got paid. It weren't obviously the same amounts as what these guys get, but it was a job for me. And there is a lot of players that get paid that big money that it's just a job to them.
I'm sure you got enough to get first round in when we all get to meet up.
He'll be too busy eating his tea.
I can't wait to come up, mate, when the fans are back in.
Wicked.
Nice one. Right, we've been on nearly an hour and a half now, and I tell you what,
bloody hell,
I'm feeling it a bit now, lads. So I think we're going to call it there. So, yeah, thanks very much, Alex, for coming on. And I know that we had to mess about a bit to get you in and then get able to hear you. But you've made some really good comments there, and actually you got a bit of love in the comments if you look back.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick thank you to all the Leeds fans that welcomed us down at Ellen Road as well. They're absolutely fantastic. So thanks for that.
Good shout. Good shout. Nice one. Cheers, Alex.
Cheers.
I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Bye.
Nice fella, him.
Yeah, he's a good lad. I used to play with him. He were winger. He were a dead thin little kid that would quick as lightning on wing when I were playing centre half, and then he filled out a bit and moved into centre mid when I had to retire. And I tell you something, he wasn't shy of a tackle. Even when he was only a slip of a kid, he wasn't shy of a tackle. He loved it. But no, he's always been a good lad.
Good stuff. Thanks, Gilly. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Simon, before we close off tonight.
No, do you know what? I really enjoyed that. There's some real
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, really interesting points. I'm gonna have a listen straight back so I can, pick the bones out of it. Yeah, really enjoyed that.
Some really good guests on and some fantastic comments as well. To be fair, I think it's really helpful to listen to it from so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
Simon, Smart is saying that you look like Sean Dyche.
I don't think Simon is saying that about
Smarty telling you that you look like Sean Dyche. Yeah, no, really good stuff, and I appreciate each and every of the guests taking the time out this evening. I think it was, we like you said, we did need to pick the bones out of it. Enjoyed every second and listening to all you guys from your different backgrounds and different levels of expertise as well.
Yeah, do you know what? I didn't know what to expect from tonight. This is the first time we've done anything quite like this, and yeah, just thanks to everybody that's got involved, because I think it's been some positive, some negative comments made, but I think overall it's been a really positive thing, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And there were some fantastic points, and do you know what, we had Si earlier on saying about don't punish the clubs because that hurts the fans, and that brought out some anger, but I can fully appreciate that being the case, because that's exactly how I felt when we were getting the -15. So I can fully appreciate that. We had Jamie from a perspective of Spurs talking about Levy and the way that he was approaching it, and Alex made some good comments as well. But yeah, just all in all, thanks everybody for the questions that you put in, and thanks for all the opinions that we've seen, and thanks for everybody that got involved.
Thanks,
really
everyone.
Good.
Take care.
All right, cheers. We'll see y'all soon.
See you later.
See you later.